Apparently the mic is sometimes a little bit too quiet, but I'm not gonna worry about dialing it in
But
too much, because if it's a little bit too quiet, I think that's fine. If it's a little bit too loud, that's a
the
problem.
monster on this thing.
Because if it's a little bit too quiet, that means I can yell
save.
more, and it won't pick up like crazy.
Alright. I think I did this right. I'm not sure if I did. If I didn't do it right, then whatever. But
It's
I
wrong.
don't. Look, I tried. That's the only thing that matters.
What's the point of
I'm just
trying
gonna say
when
I
all you do is
apologize
Oh, I don't
if
have to
of this is incorrect. I tried my hardest.
Yeah, so apparently when Days isn't streaming, he'll actually get 60 FPS on old, outdated games that aren't that good. They're just maybe
poggers! Alright. I think I'm done with my cringeness for today, so.
The cringe.
The cringe.
Someone ring the cringe.
Cringe. My piece of arrogance, why would I want to play Battlefield 5? Because it's the superior game.
I think it's better. I don't remember.
I think Battlefield 5 is the superior game in all of the Battlefield series.
I prefer 2042 because the vehicles are way better.
Now, damn, dude, so you're a masochist.
No, 2042 has way better vehicle mechanics. Like, they're way more fun to drive and shoot at people. Than, like, especially 4.
I thought I submitted that.
Because 4, half the vehicles in the game will just, like, fight across half the map and you never get to see anything, so...
Alright, that's done. I just need to do RFID technology and the mark of the beast. Alright.
That's forever for me to get.
Yeah, no, get this, right? I'm going to read this out, and I want you to like, just hear how, like, tismy this is, right? Answer the question, could RFID technology used to become the mark of the beast? Why or why not? I understand that this is a post is an intersection of theology and technology question. You cannot answer this post without considering both. Technology can be used for good. Think about the medical devices that have saved countless lives. Yeah, but
and I'm
like...
also the big Livo as well, in case.
Like, they go on. They're like... They go on about this shit. I don't even understand.
Oh, you know.
RFID is defined as a wireless...
Just pretend until the class is done. Yeah, just compromise all your principles until the class is over.
The Bible tells us the mark.
Be like, doop 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 doop. I didn't care at all the whole time.
What the fuck are you guys on about? Why are you agreeing with this shit?
I agree with it.
Okay, no, my classmates are fucking idiots. They were like, no,
maybe they're so good at pretending they've convinced you. Maybe that's what it is.
No,
they're also pretending.
If they are, please, I wish they are.
They probably are pretending.
Without trading it. What the fuck? You can't. No, okay. They obviously have no clue what the RFID chip actually does because they said they're gonna use it for economic choices. RFID chips are not microcontrollers. I'm done. These guys are fucking idiots. Oh god. God, I'm going. I'm going.
They're probably those people that hate individualism because they're crazy.
Well, no, this guy was literally like, oh, we could you know,
oh yeah, that's what
chip.
Days is. Days hates individualism.
No. It might very well be that hackers and computers of the day will become warriors of front lines, fooling the officials so we engage with commerce without the mark. What the fuck are you talking about? An RFID chip, it's super easy to block that shit. You wanna know what you do? You wanna know what you do?
You just get a wallet from ridgewallet.com.
You literally just grab any type of RFID shielding and slap that on there, like and no one would be the wiser. Like, what the fuck? Oh my god.
You can use lead.
Bro, these guys are fucking retarded. No, I know, so... We already have the technology that track us and uses our daily... I entirely agree with your stance. If we were going
at least it's nice to know that HunterNet probably runs better than all my other games do.
View.
From a networking and local standpoint. Which means Drone would probably be even
What
better.
would actually happen?
It's
How many things do I need?
abandoned there at this point.
How many words do I need? What is it? Show it to me, please. I want to know.
How many words?
There were 2 replies of at least 200 words. I can do that.
Do you
I'm
love
gonna-
how most essays are quantity over quality, basically?
Yeah, I understand that. I actually had a conversation with one of my teachers saying, it was a 1,000 word essay, and I literally walked up to them and I looked them straight in the face and I said, look, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
I could have made this essay. I said I could have made this essay better. If you say no to everything, do they exercise you? Yeah, that's how it works, Lamau. But what I did was I literally walked up to one of my teachers and I said, look, to be honest, I literally said this essay has a lot of bloat in it. And they looked at me and I was like, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, this essay has a lot of bloat in it. The reason why is because I could easily sum up my whole experiences in 1 paragraph, but because you wanted me to do a 1,000 word essay, I've split that up into, what was it? I split that up into 6 paragraphs, all on explaining what I could have said in 1 paragraph. And they basically looked at me and they're like, yeah, to be honest, we were just trying to make it was, they blatantly told me the reason why they add the word count is not because they wanted us to have it that length, it's because it was a requirement for the class.
I was like, all you said was I need to make the essay long. You didn't say it'd have to be good. So why are you giving me a bad grade? It's like, that's hypocritical.
I literally was like, look, I always said I could make this essay in like, you know, I could do it where each word is basically worth 10 of them, like 10 words. But I don't know why, like, you're basically wanting me to make something that's super long, but
trying
super
to make
good,
up an
and they
essay
said,
right now. It's like this essay about potence. It's very imperative that we discuss the underlying history of this word throughout its significance and cultures across the globe, as well as cultures throughout different periods of history.
what I literally did was
It's just
I went,
99% practice.
like, so instead of it, like, the question was about technology
Now,
in the future.
before we begin,
right? And
we first need to talk about
well, it was about technology in the future, and the question was basically about, like, where do you see technology, like, past 10 years, like, in the next 10 years? And I said, it's a plateau. There's not going to be really, we're at a plateau, there's not really going to be anything there. But what I had to do is I basically, like, started technology from the fucking industrial era and then worked its way up to here, basically, like, engaging all that shit. I spent so much fucking bloat, and the teacher looked at it, like, they were like, holy shit, A+.
Yeah. Well, the main thing with technology is, like, we're at a energy plateau, but we're maximizing our energy production, and we really can't do much more unless we suddenly, like,
Make a sudden
increase
shift
our
into
output
it.
of energy, which is
Well, no,
basically
like, right now we are stuck at not just an energy plateau, but we're also stuck at a size plateau. We cannot physically make anything smaller than what it is already.
Well, yes, they can.
because we
They're
have-
still
we have-
shrinking processors right now. I don't know if they'll do it in the next 10 years, but there's other ways they can make them faster anyway.
Well, but right now we're super close to hitting the end of the line when it comes to shrinking down, because the materials that we're using can only work so well at the levels that it's at.
That's when you'll
so-
have to start using diamond.
Well, so
for
what I
them
said was
high-clock
I said the next
100
place that we're gonna move into is we're going to start implementing. We're gonna like be implementing. What do you call it? It's like, what do you call it? Biology. Because with biology, think about it. Our brain cells basically can relay information and do complex calculations, even though they're just like a small
But
amount
they're
of them.
big.
Supposedly, it only takes 3 brain cells to become a transistor or something like that.
Well, ideally, one brain cell's a transistor. 'Cause that's literally what it is.
well, still though, think about it. It's either we're talking one cell compared to like a couple like.
That's why I don't like neural networks, because they're like faked to an extent, because your brain's a neural network, but it doesn't have any artificial inputs or outputs, whereas neural networks do have artificial inputs and outputs that aren't just yes or no. Like, so we don't have a lot of neural networks that are purely binary based, which is what your brain is. It's a binary,
but it is too.
Where it only outputs one or two, but with different weights.
And attack with RFID technology.
It's the main symptom of how small our neural networks are, is that they have to fake the inputs, basically, to be like taking some ridiculous things and doing ridiculous operations that they wouldn't do. Because you need to have the foundation to be incredibly simple if you want to have the complexity you want. That's why I don't like game engines too much, because it's just counterintuitive to the whole point of programming, where instead of making something simple, whereas the simplest thing you could do would be to do it purely from binary manually, you're instead like starting from something that's increasingly complex.
This guy makes way more sense. He says RFID he says RFID, he doesn't think it's going to be the mark of the beast. But it'll be more multifaceted, attacking our mindset, perceptive values, and etc. Which makes more sense because, here, I'm going to actually quote him on that. I'm going to say, it makes more sense that people will just try to attack our values instead of attacking us with technology.
Well, I think what's more realistic is the demons will just take your body from you, your possession, which sucks, because a lot of religions don't like dealing with that. It's like the main useful.
To be honest, I think demons are just kind of cool. I know it's like, oh, this is. Well, think about it. When you they're just my biggest thing is I just like to think about how they would actually act, whether they would actually like doing the job that they're doing, or whether it's
they do.
They did. Well, but it's never really prefaced in the Bible.
Essentially,
they're just called.
Essentially, they're just evils. Like, they just exist to cause, pain and suffering. That's essentially the whole point.
So, well, then at that point, then certain people would actually be able to agree and accept those terms, because there are people out there.
Yeah, that's why you have Satan worship.
So that's the thing that's really fuckity. So if you do it correctly, you can make it so that demons are not an enemy, they're an ally, and that's fucking cool.
I mean, from your point of view, which I disagree with, because it's like they literally just exist to cause pure
pain
negative
and suffering.
Emotions only.
Yeah, but what if you already accept that though?
Well, that doesn't make it good. It just means that you're committing to the side that I think is wrong, because I don't think both sides are right, but the good side is more right than the bad side.
The thing is, it's just the big issue for me is that it's not really outlined enough in the Bible. They talk about them, they talk about what they do, but they don't really go into depth of how they do it too. They just kind of gloss over that. It's like instead of going in depth, they just go, you don't want to talk about it. It's like he who shall not be named bullshit, They won't even say Satan's name in the Bible. They call it the beast, or stuff like that. It's like, what the fuck? Just say the thing. It's not like you're being cursed or damned,
Well, they just don't want to acknowledge it or give it any,
how are you gonna face an issue if you're never gonna acknowledge it in the first place?
Well, that's the thing. There is no real solving the issue. It's like, if it was a solvable issue, God would have done it, but he still exists.
He was the one who created Satan.
We ain't running out. Well, no, God didn't create Satan. Satan did that all himself, basically.
No, remember, he was the most beautiful angel, and he basically was he started becoming really nefarious and very evil. And so what God did was God stripped him of his wings and sent him to hell.
Yeah, but that was
That is what the Bible says.
That was after Satan already basically thought himself better than God and was basically trying to overthrow him, as well as like a third of like approximately of all the angels in heaven defected to his side, and that's why he was punished, because you know God won. Like it was essentially the war in heaven. So
God.
basically, it's a punishment for what he did, basically. But it's the thing that's in it, because I think it coincides with the fall of man too, because the demons started preying upon humanity, which made things way worse in general. As well as like my personal beliefs and/or like the strongest evidence you have, which is stories people tell in like recent memory. Because the Bible is essentially a glorified story that's very, very old, so it's extremely hard to figure out what is and isn't true, versus when someone has like an actual story of like demonic activity, it's way more credible in my opinion, because it's more recent, instead of it being horrifyingly like old stuff that is just impossible.
Here's another thing, right? They go on and on saying that everything in the Bible is valid and has happened, but then whenever you talk about anything that, well, no, I trust like at my school they basically said everything in the Bible is true and you should believe it to be true, right?
It's like
but
essentially
every single
like
time every single time there's something that happens with demons or whatever, they go, oh, you're just faking it. Oh, that's just whatever. So therefore, with your own logic, if demons and whatever are, if that is being faked and whatever, then therefore Adam and Eve and the snake was also faked. Therefore, everything leading up to that, or everything past that, was faked.
Well, that's
therefore, almost the whole Bible is fake.
Well, that's why Christians don't like the Old Testament that much, because the Old Testament's just basically Judaism.
Like, what the fuck? Like,
but essentially,
like,
it's wrong to say, even
up,
because if they're actually accurate to the religion, what the religion actually says is the Bible is man's interpreting of God's word. It is not the word of God. It is our best impression of the word.
So our interpretation of God's word basically says it's okay to kill prostitutes' children with rocks and to hate on gays.
Because the Bible also has multiple authors as well.
What happens to love each other and take care of each other?
Because the Bible isn't one thing.
Oh, and also it's okay to flip tables and threaten to whip people.
Yeah, because the Bible isn't one book. The Bible is a compendium of like several different books that were combined into one book.
I just don't understand. Oh God, it's such a thing about religion. It's always just a clusterfuck.
The main thing is people take it way too seriously and literally, when it's like there's no reason. You should absolutely live up to the principles, but
so
in terms of getting into the nitty-gritty, there's not much point.
Well, also the fact of belief is like fucked up. Because like think about it, right? They're willing to believe someone who, when they said, oh yeah, this man has walked on water, from a book that is over 10,000 years old. But if someone says like literally like just yesterday, they're like, oh yeah, I paid for gas, it's like highly skeptical or some shit. Like if like there's a thing, right, that I saw where it was like so cool, oh, you know, you should pray to Jesus, whatever all the stuff. He's a magical man, all that stuff, right? And this guy says, oh, well, yeah, but he's no hot shit. Literally, I just walked on water, like, the other day. And they're like, oh, really, then? Fucking prove it. Have some video. He goes, oh, no, you don't have to do it. You just have to believe I did. And they got on his ass for that. But they're doing the same fucking shit for a book from a point in our time where the human mind was still fighting itself because the connection of the brain, right? The thing that connects the two, the left and the right side of the brain, wasn't fully developed at that point. So, you're telling me you want to believe a guy who is technically who is of a lesser intelligence than you from a book that's over 10,000 years old than someone who's, I don't know, like, still alive to this day? Yeah, there's a lot of things. Because if you also have to think about humankind and how our brains have been developed over the years. When we were back then, we were more primitive. and how we did things were entirely more primitive. Like, don't even get me started with how they used to do surgery, like brain surgery back in the day, and for some fucking reason, it actually worked. Literally, they just like knocked a hole out, like a literal hole in their brain, where they had exposed brain, and yet they were actually still able to do like surgery and shit. And compared to things nowadays, where we're like super strict, whatever, and we're also smart about things, we have better logic and reasoning than we did back then, and certain parts of our brain have basically been tuned over the years. You're telling me you'd rather believe basically the crazy ravings of a man who had a brain that is not as fully developed, like, and take it to be true? It's some shit. Think about it. It's real some shit. Like, the more I think about it, the more I really start to think that the Bible is just one, like, the Bible and Christianity is just one big cult.
Oh, I got someone in the chat who's saying stuff about religion. Okay, so this is Seraph X2. What he says is, do you realize how smart the Assyrians and Sumerians were? They're the base of most of like modern math and time systems, as well as like the Egyptians. Oh yeah, they were very smart.
Yeah, they were very smart. But
just saying generally, like, well, it would be really small, because I know that generally, like, yeah, brain development, it's like, okay, but it's, like, gonna be very small, because it's just not a long enough time for, like, evolution to make a big radical difference. I mean, I wouldn't really, I wouldn't use that point.
The Sumerians and stuff, that was still thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago.
It's, like, relatively primitive. It's, like, maybe if you would take IQ, which should be like the best you'd have, even though it's very inaccurate, it might be like 5 points lower on average at the most, which is like, doesn't really mean a whole lot, but it's still an observable difference.
It's still an absurd difference, and also the fact that
I just wouldn't use that as like your main like crux to like make a point about stuff being different.
It's not the amygdala, it's the
What? Yeah, because I'm busy playing my Hunters. Because Darth hates his theology class.
I fucking hate it with burning passion.
There's a lot of dumb stuff
corpus
about it
callosum. That's what I'm talking about. It's the corpus callosum. That was basically, that was the thing. That is actually, like, scientifically, that's what they believe to actually be the cause of why people think they were talking to God. Because the corpus callosum was not actually, it was super weak back then. Nowadays, it's actually been refined and honed to the point where, you know, it's actually, like, we can understand it. But the corpus callosum is the part of the brain that connects one half of the brain to the other. So, that is, so think about it, right? You have the two parts of the brain. One that is, like, one that is about, you know, instinct and reality, like just engaging on shit and doing things immediately, and the other one is longer thought processes that take a while, right? So, like, what someone would do is they'll do something, like, let's say Cain and Abel, right? Cain basically just, like, smacks a rock over Abel's head and then feels bad for it over time. He might have thought it was God talking to him, but it's actually just the other side of his brain going, bro, why the fuck did you do that, you know? Like it's kind of fucked up.
I'm willing to believe that stuff actually happened, but it was just over time that the actual truth got changed or exaggerated.
Another thing is, we gotta also realize that the parts of the Bible were basically, like, certain parts of the Bible were written thousands and thousands and thousands of years after it happened.
Yeah.
Like it's like if someone from nowadays
like
was trying to talk about
compendium of many different books instead of just, it's not like a one uniform book.
Well, yeah, but still, certain events that were written about were written about thousands of years after it happened. It's like if we tried to, it's like us trying to decipher the Aztecs.
Well, we don't know because we basically killed them all. Just like with the Mayans too. It's like we don't really know anything either.
Exactly. So how the hell are we supposed to, like, understand?
Because we were those people essentially. We're their descendants. So that's why we have a way better idea of what happened.
Still though, I don't know what my fucking father was doing. My my great
Yeah,
grandparents
but
were
your
doing
father
1,000
wrote
years
down a
ago.
book and you can read it versus the Mayan books where it's like we can't
Well,
even
no,
like
but
begin
some of the
to
books
under-
were- some
We
of the books were
also
written
did a
thousands
lot.
of
We also
times
cared
before
about
that.
preserving it because it was our history, so we cared a lot more about trying to make sure we could understand it versus another culture where we couldn't have cared less about what they were trying to do. And whatnot. That was like a conflict of interest to our interest, which is just taking all their land and making them forget who they were so that we could annex them into our culture. Because that'd make them easier to rule. I mean, that was the thinking back then, which actually ended up being correct. But I mean, back then during like the age of exploration, they usually just wiped out everything. And Africa was like kind of a big exception to that. But I think almost everyone else has got wiped out. It's like Asia was like very thankful that they were keeping up like with Europe for the most part, because otherwise they would have had a way rougher time. They actually did. Because I mean, there was even a few periods where Asia like kicked the crap out of Europe, like the Mongolians. So they were just those two areas were just very close to each other, whereas the rest of the world was just like, yeah, all over the place. And even then, Asia and Europe both had the same like Middle Ages where everything stagnated really horribly. But the thing is, it didn't matter because no one else really caught up, which is just like, that's probably the funniest thing to me, is despite the Middle Ages being very stagnant for around 1,000 years, no other cultures in the world really like took advantage of it or caught up or were even aware that that was a thing they could have done. Like with a lot of the cultures like here in America, which was like, I think the Mayans were the most advanced. They still didn't really like advance that much, even though they were.
Well, that's the crazy thing about the Mayans is that we actually think they were smarter than what they are. Because there are certain things that they've
Well,
actually.
they were equivalent to like an ancient civilization like Rome, basically, where in some ways they were actually further along in development than even medieval cities.
Yeah,
in terms
like
of engineering prowess. Rome was special.
If you actually take a look at it, people think that they were really stupid. Ancient cities were not stupid. It's just that they had lesser versions.
Their
of
belief
technology.
system was just wild.
Their belief system was fucking whack. I'm not gonna be on. Like, I'm gonna be honest there. That was.
Their engineering was really impressive.
Their engineering was absolutely astonishing for the era of where they were. Like, you could really show that the Aztecs were a huge civilization. Like, it shows, right?
And their
like,
belief doesn't make like sense to a certain point, because essentially their belief was that they had to sacrifice people just to keep the sun going. And there was no way to really like prove if that was true or false, so they just betted on it being true.
I mean, back then,
I guess it's better.
Really, like,
it's like the argument of like it's better to not need to do it and done it than to have actually have been true when the sun goes out one day. I guess that was their logic. So they didn't have anything to disprove it. That's why you had a lot of like beliefs that went really well. That was like before the scientific revolution, where if there was something unexplained, the only way you could explain it was with like belief systems. Oh yeah, they did. They have pretty good science. Because I know specifically, like during.
I should need one more.
There was a specific time, I think, around the Renaissance, which was the golden age of science, because that was when the church itself actually supported science. And that was like the time of Galileo, because it ended when Galileo came out and he essentially was going directly against the Bible. That was when that ended the golden age of science.
Hello?
But
this guy's literally
like
okay. So this guy's just being fucking stupid. He says, get this, right? This topic does pose an interesting question of what the Christian society would look like after the mark has been implemented. It's likely that we'd have to leave the society and form our own self-sustaining society. So just because people place RFID tags on their body, even though RFID tag is highly
Now the person in
improbable
my
and all that
cat,
shit.
He seems really smart. So.
This shit is literally making me like want to do not good things.
Stop doing good things. It's bad for the environment. It's only AI. It's straight up. I basically and if I play against players, they usually
disagree. I'm first gonna,
increasing the amount of missiles.
I need.
They have so many missiles, man. They'll stay in the air. It's kind of similar to Battlescape to an extent, actually. Yeah, exactly. It was actually the best point in time until they were suddenly in conflict with each other. Yeah. But you do also have other scientists that came after, like you have, I think, like Mary Curie, Thomas Edison, Tesla. They were all after that age was like long over. It's like you know, Albert Einstein as well. It's like you always have great scientists throughout history.
And
that was just a period where it wasn't necessarily more greater scientists, it was just generally everyone was alive.
This guy got RFID tags and fucking microchips mixed up. They're saying they're injecting RFID chips to contain credit card payment information. You can't do that. RFID tags cannot be used to inject code. They are literally just a radio signal that is relayed out from the device. So you cannot inject code into an RFID tag. That is only used for location. A microchip is used for injecting code. How do you get these things mixed up, people?
I had like 5 shots in a row.
RFID tags and
that was great.
microchips are like comparing.
Oh, you know what I should
oranges.
do, Darth?
What?
When Cammy finally decides to make Desert Bus in Halo 4, I should totally stream that. That'll be fun.
Microchips can.
I'll ask him to see if he likes that idea. I can understand if he just doesn't want me to do, but it's like, I'll tell him, it's like, that'll be a brilliant idea, because I want to stream something else. But nothing seems obvious, but that seems perfect.
They are solely used for and
I don't think there's anything else I can think of related to religion.
and tracking.
Other than I know Islam used to be like way ahead of everyone else.
Wait, gunman. I'm being right. Are RFID tags and microchips entirely different things?
I believe they are. I just don't know myself.
That's all I need, because I want to make sure that, here.
Oh, and Seraph and my cat.
Here.
Yeah, it's read. It's basically it's a ROM, right? RFID.
I'm going to. No, an RFID is a radio frequency identification tag. Microchips are basically small chips that actually can, hold, store, and execute code. Similar.
And you said NFC is based on RFID.
No, NFC is not. No, RFID is radio
apparently
frequency identification.
he says they do have microchips in them.
Who?
Which I guess Seraph X2. He's from like Cato, from the big stream. He says they do have microchips. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we're
I just
talking
don't
about
think they have
RFID tags.
I guess I was thinking just the tag specifically. Like, I don't know.
No, they're entirely different. RFID and microchips, they're entirely different.
That's probably why I don't know the answer, because it's like, I don't know. It sounds like it's
Yeah,
not a
so
consistent...
there are 4 components to the microchip: RFID tags, RFID readers, an antenna, and a database.
Okay.
An RFID tag is composed of a microchip and an antenna. Basically, it allows you to communicate in a unique identification
you don't know
code.
what you're talking about. Well, I don't know. I don't know who's right or wrong. What I'm gleaning is, I think if you take the entire system of RFID, there is microchips involved. But
Well, yeah,
if you're
but
talking
there's
about the tag very specifically, no. Which
Yeah,
is what we're more concerned with, I think.
Because they're talking about RFID tags, RFID tags being the mark of the beast, because you can be able to track people. So I'm saying it's entirely messed up. The fact that they're saying, this person is saying microchips are the issue, and I'm like, you got the thing wrong, because that's not talking about RFID tagging. Basically, instead they're saying RFID tags, and then talking not about location, but accessing things like information, which is using the microchip, not the RFID tag. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
So
I
that's
think
the
so.
issue.
I'm half playing the game, though.
Yeah.
At least. Oh yeah, I find it funny how well this laptop does stream when you're just running the game on it, because as soon as I moved my Twitch to my phone, it like made the world of difference. And it can stream well. It's just a new laptop. Oh, and apparently Mark of the Beast, something that has to be specifically applied to either your hand or forehead too.
Yeah, which I don't like.
I'm very
like that's the reason why it's really fuckety. Like, cause I'm like, RFID tags, you cannot make them the mark of the beast. They are just like, it's just not possible. It's possible, but it's just bullshit, really. Like what? Cause like.
And the ghosts. I love ghosts.
Molly.
Ghost shows, ghost movies, like ghost stories are like the best, because those are the ones that the most truth. That was something I thought about. I kind of want to research if there's any ghost-related fuckery in my area. As in people who, like, investigate this stuff legitimately. Not the people who, like, you know, do it on film and they, like, do it for entertainment. It's like, no, I'm talking about the real, like, investigators that are actually interested in scientifically proving stuff. Instead of just, like, using it as a cash game. Okay, so Sarah Snell says the main thing about the mark is that you can't buy or sell or do anything without it.
I can barely hear you. You're cutting in and.
I don't know why that would be.
And then you're cutting in and out, bud.
If you make fun of it, it makes it like 3 times more confusing.
But yeah, that was the joke. You're cutting in and out, bud.
There's probably a hitch in the internet then. Oh, or I just moved away from the mic. I probably just moved away from the mic too much.
You moved away from the mic.
Yeah. I drifted away.
Include.
I might actually, I think I might do with one. Okay, anyway, I was reading this message. So the main thing about the mark is that you can't buy or sell or basically do anything without it. So if it's an RFID chip in your hand or forehead that is scanned, it could actually be a mark of the beast, according to Sam. You could make it.
You could make it a mark of the beast, but
it's just not inherently a mark of the beast.
Yeah, that's the thing. They said, could RFID be used to become the mark of the beast? So yes, it could.
It could.
But my big question is, why the fuck would you?
Well, because the Satan worshippers, they need to step up their game and embrace technology to like proclaim.
I understand that there was someone who had a microchip and like basically placed on their arm that you can use to pay for shit, but like compared to what it's actually saying, it's more of a thing of you're doing it for the fact of doing it instead of doing it for the fact that it's useful, right? Like, you could make an RFID tag a mark of the beast, but why the fuck would you?
Well, it's just like, why would you make a sentient AI?
And also,
well, there's not a lot of
RFID tags are used for fucking location,
happen.
so when you're doing it, you're basically making it inherently easier for people to track you. Like,
Yeah.
what? That makes like no sense.
That sounds like
This
a
whole-
UK thing.
It literally, no, this whole thing is basically, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, this whole question, in a nutshell, is literally just a whole big thing that we can just throw into the fucking trash because the whole world does not need to talk about something so niche and so retarded.
What does OBS say about this audio? It
That's
says
my
it's
opinion.
basically no difference.
That is my opinion.
So yeah, because basically I always set my mic to like as low as it will go, and then I get it like close to me, but I can't quite get it as close as I used to because of like placement of my stuff. So I think maybe the second lowest setting is probably the sweet spot now. So, you know, it should be pretty good now with microphone, and it should stop doing the cutoff. That might mean I might have a bunch of streams where I didn't have immediate audio feed. Well, then again, I usually am in Discord to some capacity. And Daze might tell me if there's an issue. He might tell me if his PC can keep up, because his PC still sucks really bad. Unlike, I mean, even my old PC in quotes, because I'm gonna, when I get the new graphics card for it, when probably the AMD ones come out, it'll be a really nice PC. It'll be like what I intended it to be originally for like the performance getting out of it. Well, for the most part, because I could have gotten better RAM, and I could have, I wanted to get a better CPU originally than what I ended up getting, but those things are very inconsequential to like where I wanted the graphics card performance to be. The Arabian, I can blame them for me suffering through Calculus 1 to 3, of which I've basically forgotten, even though Calculus 1 isn't actually that hard. It's easier than like trig and like high-end algebra too. Because Calculus 1's like the fun calculus, because that's just the foundational principles of calculus, just learning limits and then learning derivatives and integrals. I think you learn integrals at like the last like little bit of Calculus 1, and then Calculus 2 is when you get into like the nitty-gritty of like high-end calculus, where it's like the most complicated calculus equations you'll ever see. And I believe it's mainly about integrals as well, because Calculus 1 was mostly about derivatives. So I think Calculus 2 is the one that's mostly about integrals. And then Calc 3 is essentially Calc 1, except you're doing it on a computer algebra system, and you're learning how to do calculus electronically instead of by hand. But you still need to know how to do it by hand so that you actually know what the hell it is you're doing on a computer. I believe that was like how the basic idea of Calculus 1 to 3, at least how they do it here. Of which I basically don't remember anything specific at all. Because calculus is what made me change my mind from wanting to become an engineer.
So this is how I explained this, right? I said microchips and RFID tags are like comparing apples to oranges. Microchips can hold and eject code. RFID tags cannot at all. They're solely used for location and tracking. What you're mainly talking about is storing the data, which is the microchip's job. It is true that RFID tags may include a microchip for only internal purposes. With people being tagged and using it to buy things, that is solely a microchip. The RFID tags have nothing to do with it. It's only the way that the pieces of technology can interact with each other. What they're basically explaining is if microchips are the mark of the beast, but that's an entirely different question. Like, because at that point you might be able to make up a thing where they're actively using it for things that they're not supposed to, you know,
yada yada yada. Way more fun too. dumbfire missiles are like way better. All right, we got more words from Serifdarf. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So he says that NFC/RFID can hold enough to hold an identifying number.
That's it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's an identifying number. It's basically just a tag of like, it's basically a single number. Like you can't. That's too small for you to actually inject code or do something
Alright,
malicious.
and
with
also he says that it doesn't have to hold the data itself either, and that the data will be stored on servers attached to the ID that the chip has. So you could use an RFID as just a way to access more data than what you would normally be able to store on it. It's just a key to.
So then at that point you're so my response to that, right, is you're gonna have a database of people of tracking people. That would seem a little bit much compared to how expensive the technology would be for it.
They look pretty
What this person is solely talking about is and plus it doesn't really line up with what this person's talking about, because they're talking about injecting microchips, like RFID tags embedded with like microchips or whatever into their skin, and using that to calling that the mark of the beast compared to just the RFID tag itself.
Yeah. Just confused by what you mean by injecting the code.
Well, RFID tags can basically be used to
I'm pretty sure it's just a matter of phrasing.
yeah, it's a way to basically get two pieces of technology to interact with each other and understand each other.
The malicious.
The malicious side has to do with the microchip.
Yeah,
that's
I guess because that's what they were talking about. It's like,
yeah,
it's confusing.
like that's the thing. The person that I'm trying to talk to is having the difference between RFID tags and microchips confused. They're basically saying that the RFID tags themselves are the ones that can inject code and can be read, you know, like, and understood for code.
So that
but the RFID. So I'm basically trying to correct the person that I'm saying RFID tags are only used for location and basically just like a number of what it's called. Like, because you can call it RFID tag, I don't know, 6969420 if you really want to. So that whenever it's scanned, it'd be, okay, this is RFID tag 6969420. What this person thinks is when you scan an RFID tag, it can open up your bank account. That's what this person's confused about. And I'm trying to say that the microchips and RFID tags are entirely different things, right? What I was thinking was, what we could do is you could use it as an identifying number, where you could maybe possibly you could actually have an RFID tag, just an RFID tag, a passive RFID tag on your scanner embedded in your skin, and use that to scan so that it could basically open up an access to your bank account, but that had to be, I don't know, implemented into the main service, kind of like Google Pay or whatever. And at that point, it'd be pretty hard to do. If you had a microchip, then what you could do is you could actually use the microchip so that whenever it's scanned or whatever, it can basically be tagged for. It could just be tagged instantly and just act like you know, your credit card or whatever, kind of like the whole touch hover thing. But you know,
Okay.
that's entirely different, you know.
So,
It's
the RFD.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to explain this to my peer that their understanding of RFID tags are skewed and how
they're just confusing RFID tags to RFID.
Controllers. Like because they're telling, so the thing is basically talking about RFID technology as in like the location and tracking people. It was never mentioned using RFID for basically like for purposes other than location and tracking. And this person took it out of context and instantly went to other things like trying to open up your bank account using an RFID tag and a microchip, and like or servers. There's things like kind of like how the other guy was talking about it, and that's where I'm like, you're wrong. This is what RFID tags do, and this is why it can't work like you say it does. They also opened up a thing, literally a website that says what your pet's microchip has to do with the mark of the beast. I shit you not, that's an actual link that I can bring you to.
Well, this sounds
And-
like a typical headline.
And I feel ashamed that the internet has to decrease this quality of shit.
And I feel like it's been like that. That sounds like a tab to me, really.
It's from The Conversation.
Alright, and then just to
Entirely
read out
different
the
question.
full latest message from Seraph was he said, "And the RFID has a microchip in it, and all electronic devices are made of the microchips, and then you can think of microchips as the atoms it appears." I feel like it's a little bit too complicated to be equated to atoms.
It's so
Yeah, but for
basically
microchips.
it's the best way to describe it is the microchip is like the heart of most technological devices. But the thing is, they're still getting mixed up with the input, the difference between how the microchip works and how, like, because you
Right.
so if you could connect a device to a microchip, the microchip can basically relay information to it, right? The RFID tag cannot. Well, it can, but it can only relay its serial that is like stuck to it. So like I said, 69, like, you know, you tag an RFID tag or you check with an RFID tag. The only thing that would ever pop up is the same thing, 69, 69, 420, because, you know, I'm an idiot sharp piece of shit. But like that's what you do. You scan it and
Oh,
you can
yeah,
edit it.
my thing's
Compared to
probably
the
got- yeah, they got
microchip where
reset
it can
again.
basically talk to other devices. The RFID tag cannot talk to other devices like the microchip can. That's actually, I feel like the best way to describe it, in my opinion, right?
Alright, so the other things would be, he said, well, if you could scan a person's RFID and held it to the base info needed to start a transaction, credit card NFCs can be scanned. And then the other thing he said it's a legitimate way to get into an account. Yeah, I do already know about that. That's why I don't-
Into a what? Sorry,
Into an
you're leaning
account.
away from your mic again, Gunman.
It's like, I'm not trying to. And I didn't even move that much. But he said, yeah, to get into an account.
Well,
Yes.
well, in that point, then
Trying to get
yeah, then you have
comfortable
a
in my
point.
chair. I think I'm
Then
oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm pushing my chair away real slowly because my feet were on the wall. That's what's going on.
But so with that point, then yeah, sure, you win with that information if you can actually scan or use it as, like, you know, use it to open up your bank account or something like that. Then yeah, sure, RFID tags could be used.
This should be better now for me.
But I feel like that's very niche at that point. You know?
Yeah, well, I guess it's the whole point is that it's possible. So.
Yeah.
Not that.
Well, yeah, and
System
then
you're
we have to go
talking
to the
whatever
and
now,
then we're gonna need to go into the conversation of possible and probable and all that stuff, which is a whole other conversation that, you know, is what it exists. You know.
Mhm.
So at this point, congrats, you won. I'm not gonna if it can if you can actually inject or use it to, like, store data enough that it can be used for other things,
Yeah,
then yeah,
there's
no.
a way.
If there's a way, then
There
congrats,
is
you
a
win. That's all that need. Then yeah, RFID tags can be used as the mark of the beast, in my opinion.
Yes. If you were a very, like, forward-thinking Satanist.
Yeah.
Like a really forward-thinking Satanist. Like, you'd have to be into IT.
Well, satanic
you need to-
ritualists. Satanists and satanic ritualists are kind of two different things. Like, Satanists, like, believe in nature and shit. Satanic ritualists
No, I
believes
think you're
in
getting them
Satan.
confused with, like, witches at that point. Because witches aren't necessarily... Because there's like, neo-witchcraft that's, like, a religion. Where it's more about nature and less about, like, strict, like, just worshipping Satan or whatever. That old witches were practicing. Because
Well, I
they
thought for
always
s-
refer to it as Wicca, essentially.
From what I know, Satanism is more of just... It's more of, like, what was it? Self? It's like basically religion about yourself. And, which I can see why, like, you know... Why
Yeah.
Christians
Yeah,
don't
that's
like
a good
it.
way to say it. Satanism's being different from paganism, yeah.
Yeah.
Because paganism became Wicca at some point, essentially. Because that's like the Wicca's the modern religion that some people do
Yeah.
actually practice.
So like, but it's not as. The thing is, I just know it's not as dark as people think it's about. Satanic ritualism is
yeah,
entirely different. You know, like that's where things get dark, because satanic ritualism and Satanism is like.
Because I think that was like a big difference, is they actually both use pentagrams, but with the Satanist pentagram, it's inverted, and that's how you can tell
Yeah.
the difference. Versus the normal pagan
I
slash
remind me of
Wicca
the one
pentagram,
guy
which
who
is uninverted.
actually imprinted a Star of David.
It's also
and he
usually-
was trying to do a pentagram.
It's also
but he
usually
actually
like
did Star
a
of
white
David.
pentagram instead of a red one, too. Because it's like a Satanist pentagram, it's like, oh, it's usually made with blood.
But that's
If they can.
the question.
Satanists aren't very good like in any respect. Like, they're not very good at practicing. Well, apparently they might be good because they seem to cause a lot of trouble for people with spooky happenings. Or someone will move into a house, there would have formerly have been Satan worshippers there, and there'll be something haunting the house that hates you and attacks you. So maybe they are very successful in what they do. Because there's a lot of stories like that, and it'd be weird if like every single one of them was just like 100% untrue. It's like, no, there's gotta be a little bit of truth to some of them. I don't think their house went boom, but I think the one where like scratches appearing on the body out of thin air, and you have witnesses that watch them appear in real time. Like, oh yeah, that's the really like hard to disprove stuff.
I fought my heart out with whoever the guy was, and I don't want to finish this thing. I only have to do like what, 70 more words, but I still don't want to do it.
Well, you have to, because it's your class. How did you get stuck in this class?
This one is actually this is CSIS, which is basically just system information technology. System information and technology, basically like the old future thing. Why I got stuck in this class is because it's actually this is a part of my, what is it? It's not my prerequisites, it's actually a part of my class things for my IT, BSIT.
Okay.
So I kind of have to do it, but the thing is, they love
So it is
placing
a
religious
prerequisite.
spin on shit. It's no, because it's actually they're in my idea, prerequisite classes are things that are before my class track, right? This is on my class track, therefore it's not a prerequisite.
Oh no, we need to take the break. I have my 1 hour warning, Darth. I'm tired.
Oh no, Gunman, you're tired.
Very tired. Can't play the game no more.
Great 1 hour talk about why religion is fuckity and why I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna be canceled.
And a
on
lot
Twitter.
more like in detail information.
Yeah. Like we went in depth, bro.
Not very. It was mainly just different voices yelling at me about RFIDs and how they work.
how they work. Well, there's so many different ways how RFIDs can work, though. But the
Yeah,
thing
there's
is,
a
can it be the mark
very
of the beast?
backdoor,
Maybe.
insane way to have it be tied to Satan worship. To represent the mark of the beast. It's like, wow.
Wow.
That's very spooky.
The funny thing is, it would, like, it's not like something that can accidentally happen on someone. It has to be, like, very, like, you would need to do this on purpose. But to be honest, right, here's something that's a counterattack, right? There have been no reportings of anyone placing an RFID tag on their forehead and or wrist, because it is actually just such a hard area to do that on.
Is it?
Yeah. They usually, what they do is, you know, like the thing
feel like
in
it
between the
wouldn't be
thumb
that
and the
hard.
finger? You know that fleshy part in between the thumb and the finger? That's usually where they place microchips. It's like right in there.
Oh, I wouldn't want it there. That makes me feel somewhat uncomfortable.
Yeah, but that's
Thinking
usually
that.
where they place
I
it.
would
Um,
rather have it in my forehead or something. That sounds way more
well,
pleasant.
the wrist is actually, it's too mobile of an area for you to actually place anything there, chip-wise. Like, skin-wise, yeah. I was thinking,
What
having
about
one
the
of
ass?
fucking...
That's a very mobile area, actually.
I think it could work depending on where you place
Well,
it
you sit
the
on it all
ass.
the time. Like, you'd squish it.
Yeah, it'd just be really uncomfortable.
Especially if you
But
were
the wrist
really
is too
fit.
much of a mobile area for you to actually place an RFID tag embedded into your skin.
What about the forehead?
the forehead?
If you don't have
know.
shifty eyebrows, you're fine. If you
I
do.
think the fact that it's just there's not enough skin, or it'll be very visible that you'll have something there. That's
If you
just
were
weird.
bald, you could put it on the top of your head.
Oh my god! you walk in the door and you just like automatically detects if you're there and just drops a hat on you.
Oh yeah, it's like that Amazon Go thing or whatever, where you just walk out of the store with what you got and it automatically charges you or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a very extremely expensive way to get rid of cashiers, which are typically very cheap to have in a store.
Literally pay them minimum wage to do a
Yeah,
job.
instead of that, because that's not economical, we need to invest a lot of money into tagging every item in the store with microchips that detect when they're bought or sold, and then that also needs to have an infrastructure which will actually charge the people's like payment system, and their payment system needs to also like work. And if it's a fraudulent like payment, there needs to be some way to like actually get your items back, because otherwise they're already walked out of the store, and there's presumably like very few people in the store at this point. So I don't know how you're gonna catch shoplifting when it's a fraudulent, and mainly just unintentional shoplifting, like their card got denied or something, or if someone had like a payment system where it like takes a few days to process, so they wouldn't know it was fraudulent until like next Tuesday. That feels really unfortunate. If it was somehow still valid, I don't know. It seems like a very dumb. It's like about as dumb as the drone swarm idea, which doesn't make much sense either. Having the big swarms of drones that deliver everything to you, because one of the issues is, well, unless you have really thick, heavy-duty drones, there's a very strict weight limit on what a drone can carry for parcels. And then there's also the fact that they want to use swarms of drones, so you need to actually like somehow coordinate all these damn drones and have them not
Have you
like,
seen the
you know,
drone video
crash
of
into
someone who
stuff.
picked up a Starbucks coffee?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I was like talking about. It's like, well, what seems more practical is a person using their own personal drone to get stuff for them that's small. That makes way more sense than that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually kind of want to get a personal drone, fly it over to McDonald's.
Than having like a company try and like build out a giant infrastructure of drones and have them replace like delivery vans, which is what they use right now. Because that's
Think
like
about
a
it,
very
you just-
good system.
You take your drone, because drones actually have like, like certain drones, you can fly them for like miles, you know? So, like, fly it over to the nearest McDonald's,
Done.
place it, do the whole car pickup thing,
Yeah.
and grab yourself like we're talking, like
Well, this
a
isn't
burger,
really-
some fries, no drink. Drink would be too heavy.
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
actually a drink.
So that'd be a deal breaker for me, because the main reason I go to McDonald's is because they have very cheap sweet tea.
Well, no, you might be able to actually do it, because remember the person picked up it was a coffee. So you could actually maybe have a burger, a fries, and some coffee if you have a
Say,
strong enough
the
drone.
gunny order might work, but if you were like getting McDonald's for a family, you're fucked.
No,
Or
you're
you need to
screwed.
do multiple trips. I'm guessing you can just do multiple trips. Or you
Dude,
just
multiple
have
trips.
a thick ass drone.
Multiple. No, think about it. Multiple trips.
Like,
That'd be
I would
fucking
imagine
baller.
getting a drone that would have a load capacity of 10 pounds wouldn't have to be that overbuilt to do that.
No, you
probably-
just need strong. You just need strong. Like a strong enough.
It probably just
thrust.
wouldn't have a lot of range, because it's like, well, if it's battery powered, so it's pure electric, it's like, well, you need to have the batteries, and the batteries are very heavy. Then you need to have like motors that can actually use enough current from the battery to produce the lift that you require.
Yeah, that's the thing. Strong drones are basically a game of diminishing returns.
Because essentially the square cube law just kicks your fucking ass.
Yeah.
At the same time, the volume principle helps a lot. Like, you're not gonna have a shortage of volume. That's kind of why engines kind of make a little more sense. Because it's like at a certain point the drone becomes so big that it makes more sense to give it a miniaturized power plant that makes the electricity there than to store it in batteries. Which is why cars, even to this day, a fuel car usually makes more sense than an electric one, just because it's like, well, a car is just so big that it making its own power when it needs it actually just makes more sense. When the fuel is going to be like 10 times the power density for the same thing. That's why I still subscribe to my want and need of nuclear-powered cars at some point in the future. That's the only way you're gonna get that energy density in any level of time soon. So it's like you need to figure out how to do the radiation shielding, you need to figure out how to make it as safe as you can in case one of them gets breached. Which, I mean, even if one got breached, well, because it's a car-scale nuclear reactor, it shouldn't be that dangerous for the radiation leaking, even if it was like a horrible accident where it breached the nuclear reactor. But I mean, if you can make a car that keeps the fucking person alive inside it at like a high-speed collision, I don't know why the nuclear reactor wouldn't be compromised if the person inside is fine. Like, if you can have people survive crashes, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't have a nuclear reactor survive a collision if it was placed on a car, essentially. It just means you couldn't do what they typically would do in a car, which is to use the engine as a buffer between the driver to improve the crash safety, which is part of the reason why they like putting them in the front. Even though a mid-engine's usually the best for performance reasons. But front engine, it's like, well, you have a shit ton of crap in the way to, like, be the crumple zone for if there was, like, a serious accident.
There you go. I'm done!
Just a solid
Woo!
mass.
I'm done with all my schoolwork!
And front
For
engine,
this
I think,
week.
helps with off-roading in some cases.
Yay! I'm gonna go quickly grab some...
Because it makes the car, like, more front-heavy,
Food,
which
water.
I think
Be
is
back.
good for off-roading. In some cases, it's good. Not all the time. But just generally, I think. Alright, so I am gonna end my thick AF stream after I kill this bomber. Had the big fun with the big religion and whatnot. And the yelling at Days like at least 1 or 2 times about how terrible his PC is, so you know. When fighting the microphone too, that's always fun. It loves to put up a fight. So, good boy.